Wolfenstein 2 came out last week, I think. Jake Kulkowski, who's here with me, Mike Williams.
We get better at that every time, don't we?
It's getting smoother and smoother.
Oh, yeah.
I've played it, completed it, and thoroughly enjoyed it, to be honest.
Yeah, I had a little dabble, just so you know where we're at. Played the U-boat level, which is the first level.
Yeah.
And you finished the whole game.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I only finished it yesterday. So decided to make this video because I think that Wolfenstein 2 is a very important game for a few reasons. But just as a value proposition, it's a good deal. We do so much moaning about stuff, and when things are done wrong and done badly, and microtransactions and all that stuff. That it's just, I think when a game comes out and doesn't do any of that stuff, it should be talked about and it should be kind of championed a little bit. And so that's kind of, I guess, what's going on right here. But Wolfenstein 2 is a cracking game, so let me tell you why. It's roughly kind of a 10-hour campaign. So what did you play, Jake? You said the first level, so kind of U-boat.
Don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes in.
Okay, fair enough.
Bit of a busy weekend, to be honest. Not that anyone cares, but there we go.
Yeah.
And
what did you get up to?
Yeah, exactly. We got criticised in our last video for taking 2 minutes to get to the point, so for everyone else.
Well, the point of this video is buy Wolfenstein 2.
We've already arguably said that, so you can turn off now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've played the first level, which is a level in a U-boat, and you're in a wheelchair.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's pretty interesting.
It's a roughly 10-hour campaign. You can get more out of it with optional side missions, and the locations it takes you through are very varied and graphically fantastic to look at. They've done a wonderful job of setting these places up, and the environmental storytelling is excellent by leaving you notes and stuff to read, which do a great job of setting up this absolutely insane world. In terms of locations and level layout and everything like that, it's absolutely terrific. The structure of the game, to anyone who's played Wolfenstein 1, will be absolutely completely familiar. Very similar to Wolfie 1, The New Order. In delivery, similar gameplay, similar storytelling, similar kind of campaign setup and structure. And this is exactly what it needed. I don't think it needed anything different. We don't need more open world games with loads of padding and busy work to be getting on with. We don't need any of that stuff. It's got a very minimal amount of that in the form of side missions, which see you returning to levels that you've completed to kind of assassinate like Nazi generals and whatever. But that's purely optional, and it's even done in a way that once you reach the end credits, after the credits are over, it kind of gives you the option to go back and go back to your kind of submarine base, which is the place you keep returning to between missions, and it says, you know what, the war's not won, we got to go out and fucking take out all these Nazis. It's a great kind of setup for delivering the story, because it's just a linear AAA first-person shooter adventure, which is exactly what it needed to be. No multiplayer, no live online world, no microtransactions.
Guess following in the footsteps of Bethesda's other published shooter last year, Doom, which did remarkably well because of, that did have a multiplayer, which was developed by a different team though, right? I mean, this was made in the same engine that Doom was made in, right?
And you can really feel that as well. It's very fast and very incredibly smoothly kind of delivered. Yeah, exactly. It's just the word that pops up. We have been playing it on the PC, and some people have been complaining about performance issues and bugs and whatnot.
Yeah.
I've got to be honest, I know this is absolutely useless to whoever is having problems, but for me it was running excellently, and it was a very well optimized game as far as
I had it nice. Mine was running very nicely. I know our Liam has had some issues with performance in the game.
Just call him our Liam.
Well, yeah, in case people are thinking who's Liam, the guy, our Liam. Yeah.
I thought we'd suddenly become people from the north of England.
He was having some issues on it, but mine was running nice anyway. But I think the one thing I noticed was like a lot of issues I had with the visual styles, like softer lighting and stuff like that. But there was just other people I've seen on YouTube have said they prefer. They don't like this flash blind in their eyes and things like that. The visual style for me was this film grain and everything's softened. And I know I can turn it all off, but the performance issues, something that can be patched out eventually, because that's another thing. You see a lot of games on launch getting performance issues, but obviously it's something. Bethesda aren't completely known for their smooth launches, but they do patch their games.
Yeah, so but in general, it just runs and looks great for me. So it's a very well built game as far as I'm concerned. Also, is some interesting things that it does kind of in terms of storytelling. I quite like. It is like a bog standard shooter, and that is one of the big selling points about it. It just gives you big guns, lets lets you hold 2 of them at once, which is fun. In any combination, you can have an automatic shotgun in one hand and a machine gun in the other hand, and just like mowing down corridors of armored Nazis. It's just it's great, right? But it also it's not afraid of making you sit through a cutscene for a long time. It goes full Kojima in some cases of showing you long cutscene sequences that you can't. Well, you can skip, but I mean, I don't like it when a game takes control away from me. I like being in control of the character as much as possible. But in Wolfenstein's case, I don't mind it. The world is so nuts, and it's so it's so engaging because of how bizarre and how fun and also paradoxically dark and twisted it is.
This seems to be a big talking point about the game. It can take you through some very dark themes, like the first, one of the opening scenes, it's like domestic abuse, and then the trailer's like a Nazi in a milkshake bar having a strawberry milkshake, and there's all these goofy moments with the Nazis, but then you remember they're Nazis, and it's a lot of harrowing, traumatic, flashbacky events happen straight away.
That's right. Does
that continue throughout the game?
It's no. In fact, the first half feels quite different to the second half. It's got a big tonal. There's a huge thing that happens just over halfway through the game. A big narrative moment, right? Yeah. But the game after that feels very different storytelling wise. It kind of just, the tone kind of lightens up and things, and it becomes a different experience. It's quite interesting how it does that. Now, this game is alternate history, okay? So it's like, not only what if the Nazis won the Second World War, what if they won the Second World War and they had miraculously access to magic like space age technology and just dominate the entire world. So that's the setting. It's basically just sci-fi in Wolfenstein 2, more so than the New Order, the last one. It's full-on sci-fi, right, into many degrees.
This alternate history where Nazis take over has been done before in like other mediums, Man in the High Tower, the TV show.
Of course, yeah.
But this seems to add a bit of a crazy spin on it. They've got the weird robotic mech suit, kind of reminds me of Power Armor.
I mean, that's there in the New Order. If you play through the New Order, you know that sort of stuff. But in this one, it just feels full on sci-fi. I don't know how else to say it. It feels like you're in a sci-fi setting rather than an alternate history. It feels basically more advanced than today. Do you know what I mean? It's also it does a few interesting things with the gameplay quite specifically. So you mentioned you've been on the U-boat, so you've played a bit of the U-boat section. So this is going to be a mild gameplay spoiler.
The whole thing actually.
Yeah. So that what that does is it puts you in a wheelchair, okay? And that's the first bit of gameplay you get is you're not walking around. You're in a wheelchair. You're rolling around. The gameplay actually handles differently. It's not like a strafe left and right as you'd expect. It's kind of the wheelchair rotates, so you have to compensate for the fact you're in a wheelchair.
Yeah, it's funny. You can build up momentum if you're going down a little slope. You can slide around corners. Exactly. John Woo shooting people. It's funny. It's got good I can't remember many other games I've played where you're in a wheelchair. Certainly not another game where you're in a wheelchair shooting Nazis in a U-boat. But it's got this very cool mechanic. You're gliding around. You feel empowered despite the fact you're in a wheelchair, which is always, I guess, a good thing. And
the game is full of instances like that where it gives you new tools and new things to do, and it gives you right until the end almost. And there's a big decision later on where it gives you a choice of one of 3 like power-up abilities that actually let you access different parts of the level, let you overcome obstacles in different ways, let you fight enemies in different ways almost. So and that's just drip-feeded later on. So that's not a weapon or anything. It just gives you this kind of passive ability that works. So this is another thing that's worth mentioning. This is just a shooter game. There's no like deep RPG elements. The only thing you've got are like pickups, like gear, inventory things that you can pick up and mod your weapons with. Okay, but they're actually meaningful mods. It doesn't just increase the damage or increase the fire rate or anything. It actually they handle differently. The bullets fly out at a slower rate but do more damage and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that'll give you the sort of sense of like a bit of character progression through the game rather than like a complicated skill tree. You feel like more powerful than when you began.
And it's more interesting. It feels more like tinkering as well rather than like feel this is just a straight upgrade. It'll actually just alter how that weapon handles. So although there are only a set number of weapons, it's not that many to be honest. There's like 8 or 9 or something like that. But there's flexibility within each of those weapons, and you can make the assault rifle become like a really high damage anti-armor slow firing semi-automatic thing, or a fully automatic death machine. It's up to you the way you do it, what you want to do with it, right? So there are a few problems with it, and there's particularly in terms of like the stealth. I feel like the stealth is just badly implemented. It's like when you get detected, even the slightest whiff of detection, all the alarms go off immediately and everyone knows where you are, and the enemies and the
classic
levels
shooter stealth problem, that, isn't it? It's quick and annoying.
Another really specific thing is cutscenes. Like, it can't decide during big narrative moments if it's going to let you play them out or show them to you in a cutscene. So the game's solution is to cut from the cutscene to you playing it for like literally 2 seconds while you press a button, and then it cuts back to a cutscene to show you the result of the button you've just pressed, which really is not a good. I feel like some of the huge moments didn't quite land for me because it was editing from cutscene to gameplay to cutscene far too quickly.
Kills momentum a bit.
It really does. So that's a kind of a bad decision. And then the final thing that I've got to complain is kind of a specific design decision that they've taken. So it's got you're constantly picking up health and armor because it's an old school style shooter, which is totally fine, totally on board with that. But what it does is it doesn't really like show you that you're getting damaged enough, right? So it's really easy for your health and armor to drop without you even realizing it. You don't feel like you're under fire a lot of the time. Not enough feedback on the screen that shows you that you're getting damaged.
It's something we take for granted. There's normally great visual indicators on games.
Exactly.
They make that like vignette, or there's like blood or whatever. So it seems to be old school in a lot of respects. Seems to be getting quite a lot of praise from people that are into a bit more old school because of its lack of skill trees and huge RPG elements and then things like that.
Overall, there's plenty of good stuff here. Wolfenstein 2 is a great AAA game, the kind of AAA game we really needed in the middle of all this loot box bollocks, multiplayer, online living worlds and everything, microtransaction bollocks, and also, of course, the death of single player. People saying that single player is going to die and there's no more single player games. They closed down Visceral. This single-handedly just fucking pulls a finger up at all of those and just comes out and is a good game. It's not like a Game of the Year contender for sure. It's like 8 out of 10 material. Right. That isn't my score. I'm just saying that's probably what the Metacritic is going to settle.
It is about that at the moment.
Right, okay.
Same with Evil Within, another Bethesda single player game amidst the noise. 2 in a row, isn't it, for them?
But it's a damn solid game, and if you want to support good business practices and just play an entertaining game about shooting the fuck out some Nazis, then Wolfenstein 2 is the one for you. I've enjoyed playing it, and I think it's just the kind of game that we needed right now. All right, so that's Wolfenstein 2. See you next time.
Bye.